Ladies and gentlemen, let's game into the video. Let's talk about used games, shall we? No, not the physical kind, but the digital kind. Microsoft are asking how you would feel if you were able to sell back your digital games, your used digital games, to Microsoft for store credit. How much store credit? Well, you might think, well, it's not like the disc can get damaged, right? So what? 40%? 50% of the original value? Surely? No. Microsoft are asking how you would feel about 10% of the purchase price. So in short, if you paid, for example, $60, that's not very much, is it? You get $6 back. So you are given the choice between 4 answers. Yes, for many of my digital titles. Yes, but for only a few of the digital titles I no longer play. No. And finally, the cop-out answer, also known as don't know / not sure. Now, as I said, this image did pop up on Reddit, and I'm kind of 50-50 on it in some different ways, because, alright, you can make an argument that, let's say you miss the refund period of a digital title, right? So you hate it, there's major bugs in it, whatever the case may be, and you can get a refund in many instances. But if you miss that window and you hate the game, or you've completed the game and no longer ever want to play it, this is particularly true for multiplayer games which have an iteration every year, what the hell do you do with it? It's just in your digital library and it's quite literally doing nothing. And you can quite easily accumulate a lot of titles really fast. I mean, a lot of titles, depending obviously on how many games you play. So, hypothetically, they are doing absolutely nothing for you apart from chewing up either disk space or just chewing up your library list, which means you have to trawl through more games. So I guess technically you're getting more money for old ropes, you're not losing anything. But the idea of just $6 from a $60 release, and obviously this does bring up some other questions as well, like what happens with season passes, for example. Let's say you were to buy a $30 or a $40 or a $50, whatever that season pass happens to be. How much are you going to get for that? Are you going to be able to trade that in as well? I mean, I guess, theoretically, that would make sense, right? Now, it does also bring some other questions up as well. For example, yes, if they were to do this, it's great for digital focused users, but I imagine a lot of game stores, for example, you know, the GameStops and all of those other stores which make an awful lot of money for trade-in titles. One of the benefits of digital releases, of course, is convenience, whereas one of the benefits of physical releases is completely reversed. It's the ability to just trade that title in, hand it to your friend, whatever you want to do with it. Use the damn thing as a frisbee if you want. Of course, there are other benefits, such as not needing to download titles, apart from, you know, the 5,000 gigabytes of updates that you probably will get every couple of weeks, but still, you know, you can put the disc in and play it after an update or two. The bottom line is, however, it's gonna be quite interesting how, once again, GameStop and other stores deal with this. Would that mean that they are feeling compelled to give you a higher value in trade-in? Or would it mean the reverse? Would they actually give you less money because digitally you're going to get like $1.50 anyway? Now, I like the idea, but I don't like the value. I don't think that Microsoft are giving you enough. On the other hand, I can't necessarily say that I have a dollar value in mind. I don't necessarily know if I have a percentage value in mind. I mean, I would, in a theoretical lovely world with lollipops and sunshine, I'd like 50%. But let's just be honest, that possibly won't happen. And it also kind of depends, because, let's face it, used codes can't really go bad. It's not like you're downloading the digital version of, let's say, for example, I don't know, the next Halo or Gears of War 4, and it's gonna suddenly degrade. The quality of the bits do not do that, they're digital. It's possible, however, that if you buy used, you might miss some stuff out. For example, let's say that you've got a used game, and let's say that that used game gives you day one content, or let's say that that used title gives you avatars, or maybe I don't know, experience boosts or whatever it is for pre-ordering, well, I'm going to assume, and obviously I'm making the assumption, that those benefits won't carry on to the customer who buys your used code, because it just wouldn't make much sense to do that. So let's say, for the sake of argument, the new Mass Effect comes out, and the new Mass Effect, for example, ships with, let's say, a new rifle which is exclusive to pre-orders. Well, you know, that rifle won't be available for someone who buys your version of Mass Effect Andromeda if it's used, which I guess would make sense, which would also raise questions of how much money would you pay for a used title. I think that's the other deal. Let's say, for the sake of argument, a used title, a used digital title, is a separate category. Well, how much would that cost you? For example, let's say that the used version of a game, but you feel free to change it around. Let's say Gears of War turns out to be $60 for a nice round figure new on Microsoft Store. Well, let's say that the used version, for lack of a better term, is $25. That's not bad. Or would Microsoft just sell the whole code as new and just repackage it? Imagine not, if once again we go back to the fact that certain content would be associated with your account. I think this is one of those things where I really like the concept, and I definitely would like how it works in theory. I mean, obviously there are some pretty obvious caveats. For example, let's say, for the sake of argument, you're a gold member, and obviously you get the monthly games every month, right? I'm going to assume that they're not going to be silly enough to allow you to resell those games back to them. So for the sake of argument, you download an Xbox Live game for what would have the equivalent of $10. 3 months later, you're not going to be able to sell that game back to Microsoft, which you originally got for free, for $1 or $2 or whatever the case may be, because obviously it cost you, technically, I guess you could say, technically nothing. I like the theory, just to close out. I like the idea, I just wish the cash value equivalently was higher. But, with that said, if handled correctly, I don't mind it. I'm actually fine with it, and I think it would fix a lot of the issues with digital games. I mean, there are other problems with digital titles, which we could probably wax lyrically about for some time. For example, the fact that digital titles aren't really cheaper. I mean, if you count the fact that you've got to ship the game, you've got to package it, you've got to put it on a disc, you've got a manual of some description, the printing costs, the costs of actually buying it in retail and all of that jazz. There's no way that a physical version of, once again, Gears of War 4 should cost as much as a digital version of Gears of War 4. And I know there are taxes and all of that crap and distribution costs of, for example, data on a server, but even so, you know, it shouldn't be a like-for-like comparison, and we all know there are some reasoning behind that. For example, the fact that they're doing it because retail stores are kind of putting them into some pressure. So I don't necessarily... Let's just cut it short and say that I'm really interested in the idea, but I don't think they're going to get a very positive reaction at 10%. I think it definitely would be used for games that you absolutely hated, and like impulse buys, and you just want those extra couple of dollars. But I think most customers would probably feel a little cheated just getting 10%. Having said that, it's not like, once again, GameStop or Game in the United Kingdom or other such stores give you a lot of credit, right? So, who knows? Anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye for now.